Right, this build I've been using on and off all season, especially for endgame, and it is absolutely top tier in endgame content. It's a Strand subclass, but we're going to be able to go invisible at any time you wish. You feel like you're playing on a Void Hunter, but you're not, you're playing on a Strand. You're going to get all the benefits of Strand and all the benefits of Void, the Void invisibility in particular. And this build is going to be so strong next season. I'll explain why, so stay with me, I'll break it all down. Assassin's Cowl is the main exotic. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishes and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health shields restored. So you're going to get loads of invisibility just from the helmet and loads of healing. It's absolutely nutty helmet. I've seen it run on Arc quite a lot, but it's absolutely king on Strand, and I'll explain why. Because the two main aspects, or the two main key points of Strand, is the grapple. So we can do the grapple melee, that activates all the goodness from Assassin's Cowl. And on top of that, we've actually got a really strong melee. Well, I'll say it's strong melee, it's going to be strong next season. It's called Threaded Spike. Throw a rope dart that bounces between targets, damaging them, it severs them. Severing targets is a bit like an overload sort of effect, and it also grants your weapons anti-barrier as well. But next season this is getting buffed, and this is what I felt this build missed a little bit, the powered melee. So it's getting a 55% damage increase, the Threaded Spike. It's also going to pierce Cabal shields, and they're doing some other little tweaks in there to make it more usable with regards to when you can catch it. But this is what the build is based around, the grapple melee. As long as you can grapple on, you don't even need a charge melee with that either. So that is crazy. You can literally, as long as you've got your grapple, you can go invisible anytime you want. And there's the Threaded Spike doing the melee as well. So you've got two ways of going invisible, either with your grapple melee or the Threaded Spike. And like I said, next season that Threaded Spike melee is getting a 55% damage buff. So we're going to be able to use that threaded melee more often. Therefore, we're going to be able to go invisible a lot more often. You'll notice here as well, I'm going invisible in another way as well. This is an exotic sword. It's my favourite weapon probably in the game of all time. Heartshadow sword. What this does, heavy attacks made with full sword energy turn you invisible and fire exploding void projectiles. But whenever you are invisible, shot in the dark, remaining invisible grants this weapon increased bonus damage for a brief duration, and hitting a target with this weapon's projectiles while shot in the dark is active weakens them. So as you can imagine, you've got all them different ways of going invisible with the grapple melee and the Threaded Spike. And on top of that, once you've got your sword out, you're going to do some crazy damage with your sword. This is what I mean, it feels like a Void subclass because you can debuff enemies while you're invisible, and your sword does some crazy damage. It all fits so nice together, and it's extremely handy in all different types of situations. Getting your reses, pushing different players, you can get out, maybe kill some snipers. You've got the confidence to go invisible with your melee or your grapple. You've got your sword to go invisible, and you can just run around in a GM and just take the mickey out of these enemies, pick them off whatever you want. Get used to it, and you can literally just run around like an absolute ninja and just destroy spawns of enemies. The Heartshadow sword, the Assassin's Cowl, the Threaded melee, the Threaded Spike melee, and on top of that you've got your grapple melee. You've just got so much invisibility, and it's extremely helpful for every type of situation. You've got that confidence to know you can get up close to enemies. You're going to get that massive healing from Assassin's Cowl. You're going to be able to apply debuffs with your sword, and on top of that you've got all the goodness of the actual Strand subclass, which we haven't really talked about yet. But as we know already, Strand for me is absolutely insane for endgame stuff. All characters are good, but hunters, just having that ability just to suspend targets with the ensnaring slam aspect as well, it's crazy. We've actually got another aspect coming next season as well for hunters, where I'll touch on that as we go. But this is the goodness of Strand subclasses for endgame. This is why for me this season it's been covered a little bit, but not quite like this with the sword, etc. This build is really king of endgame for me. It absolutely destroys everything, and you can literally run around and just do things like this, get up close and personal to overload. You know you've got that confidence from the Assassin's Cowl, and you can go invisible if you're in the doo-doo. Absolutely crazy build. So I've got a quick spoiler for next season, a new aspect coming for the Hunter. So if you don't want to watch this, I'd skip to the end of the video now, because I'm going to talk about the new Hunter aspect that's coming. So the new Hunter Strand aspect, this could make this build even more interesting because it's called Threaded Spectre. Activating your class ability leaves behind a decoy that attracts enemy fire, providing you and your team with an opportunity to seek out cover when enemies get close to the decoy or destroy it. Something that requires significant damage, it explodes, dealing damage and summoning threadlings. So I'm just trying to think like Theorycraft a little bit. We've got all the invisibility. We're going to be able to go invisible, dodge, leave a decoy. While you're invisible, them enemies are going to be attracted to this decoy. You've got all that crazy invisibility going. I think it could work particularly well. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm really excited to try this next season. So all that's left to do now is go over my aspects and everything like that, and I'll show you some of my mods, and then right at the end of the video I'll always leave a preview of the actual build, and I will leave a dim link in the video description. So stay tuned if you want to see all my fragments and aspects that I am running. So the Thread Runner subclass, Ensnaring Slam, this is the one that when you activate your air move, it consumes your class ability but it suspends targets. Widow's Silk, that is obviously great for this build because you get 2 grapple melees. So having 2 grapples, that's 2 times you can go invisible. The grapple, the Threaded Spike, which we've touched on, do the unraveling, that's getting a 55% buff, so that could be really, really interesting next season. It just buffs this build. Any jump you want, Gambler's Dodge for the melee, every time you dodge, you're going to get a melee back near an enemy. Thread of Mind, defeated suspended targets, grants class ability. Thread of Generation, dealing damage, generates grenade energy. Thread of Continuity, to make you sever and suspend projectiles last longer. And Thread of Propagation, powered melee blows grant your strand weapons unraveling rounds in case you run strand weapons. So because we are doing a lot of melees on this build, Heavy Handed is a really good one. I think this is only going to cost 1 next season as well, so creating orbs with Heavy Handed, and then I run Focusing Strike, grants class ability when you cause damage with a melee, and Impact Induction, cause damage with a melee, reduces your grenade cooldown. Like I said, we're doing a lot of grenade, a lot of melee kills, so these all work perfectly together. Class item, I tend to stick to the same type of things, Time Dilation and Reaper. You do a lot of dodging on this build as well. For your melee, and then Bomber, all these work perfectly together. So Time Dilation, Reaper and Bomber are the 3 main mods I tend to stick to on most of my builds. So this is the preview of the build, in case I didn't explain it well enough, and I'll also leave a dim link in the video description. Season 21, Tuesday, I hope we're all hyped, next Tuesday, only a week. Thanks for watching, have a great day.